Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal. Just joining you, just to give you a bit of a rundown, a quick update ahead of Arsenal's trip to Brighton on Saturday. Not looking great for Mikel Arteta ahead of that game at the Amex Stadium. Arsenal obviously playing at Manchester City on Wednesday night, losing 3-0, getting off to a bad start from the whole resumption of the Premier League. And things haven't really improved between then and now for Arteta. He's facing some real injury issues ahead of that game at the Amex Stadium. It's a really important game for Arsenal. Obviously, this one on Saturday, given what happened on Wednesday, given the way it happened as well, the nature of the defeat, the nature of the performance, Arteta will be really keen for his side to kind of respond and not just get a result, but put in a decent performance, just raise morale ahead of these final games of the season, because they are 9 massive games for Arsenal starting on Saturday. If they want to get themselves into European football, if they want to have even the faintest chances of not just Europa League football, but Champions League football next season, then nothing but a win will do on Saturday. They've got to pick up points, and they've got to pick up points quickly. And so Arteta would have been hoping to have a big number of his first team squad available for that game, but they're going to be missing some key players. And really bad news on Pablo Mari, I'm afraid. It looks like Mari's season is over. He suffered ankle injury, ligament injury against Man City. We saw him limp off midway through the first half. He was replaced by David Luiz, and it looks like Mari will not play again for Arsenal this season. Obviously, he's on loan until the end of the season from Flamengo as it stands. We know that Arsenal are expected to potentially try and turn that into a permanent move, but yeah, as it stands, it looks like Mari will not feature again this season. Going to be out for several weeks with the injury, and with this season due to be completed by August the 1st, which is the date of the FA Cup final. It looks like he won't be available, so he certainly won't be available for the game against Brighton tomorrow, and that leaves Mikel Arteta facing some real sort of troubling injury issues or unavailability issues for the game against the Seagulls. We know David Luiz is out. He's suspended for 2 games following his red card on Wednesday night. So there'll be no Luiz, no Mari. Looks like Cedric Suarez is still going to be out with a broken nose he's had for the last couple of weeks. Still hasn't played a game yet for Arsenal following his January loan move. And Socrates as well with a thigh injury is not expected to shake that off in time to feature. So real issues at centre-back for Mikel Arteta. Rob Holding is certainly in contention to start. He's only started 1 game under Arteta. That was way back in January, the FA Cup third round tie against Leeds United. He's only featured 3 times. He's had 2 substitute appearances, 1 against Chelsea in a 2-2 draw and 1 in the FA Cup win at Bournemouth. So not been on the radar really under Mikel Arteta, Rob Holding, although he has come in for some praise from Arteta previously when asked about the defender. But we all know about how he's struggling. He's struggled since he's come back from that long injury layoff when he did his cruciate. He's struggled for form. He's struggled for he's just not looked sharp. He's not like that sort of player that we saw before he suffered the injury, way back against Manchester United in 2018, wasn't it? When he was, great, arguably he was Arsenal's best defender at that point, but he's been nowhere near that sort of form since he's come back from that injury. But he might be needed tomorrow night. So you're looking at tomorrow afternoon. So you're looking at centre-back partnerships potentially of Shotram Mustafi and Rob Holding against Brighton. There is another option possibly for Mikel Arteta. Kieran Tierney has played at centre-back before quite a few times for Celtic, so he is an option. If you move Tierney into the centre, possibly alongside Mustafi, you could then drop back Bukayo Saka to left-back, who we know has performed well there before, or Sead Kolasinac can come in. So there is another option for Arteta at centre-back, but I think it would say an awful lot for Rob Holding's future at the club if Kieran Tierney is preferred to him at centre-back against Brighton. And it's not just in defence where Arsenal are short, looking like they're going to be short as well, because in central midfield they've got some issues as well. Granit Xhaka not expected to be available. He suffered an ankle injury as well against Manchester City. It's not expected to be quite as bad as Pablo Mari, but tomorrow certainly is going to be too early for Granit Xhaka, so he's not expected to be involved. In Lucas Torreira as well. Obviously, we haven't seen him yet since he broke his leg against Portsmouth. He is back in training, but he's not been involved in any of the squads yet, and hasn't joined up with group training yet. So Arsenal looking short in midfield as well, probably expecting a midfield partnership in the centre of Matteo Guendouzi and Danny Ceballos, Ainsley Maitland-Niles, obviously, he came on against Manchester City on Wednesday night. He is another option. He's been asking for his chance to play in his favoured midfield role, so maybe it'll be a chance for him. But I'd probably expect to see Guendouzi and Ceballos in the central midfield ahead of a centre-back partnership of Rob Holding and Shotran Mustafi. So not ideal for Mikel Arteta going into this really important game against Brighton. He would have loved to have had most of his senior players fit for this end of season run-in, but as we saw against Manchester City on Wednesday night, those best laid plans can quickly change when it comes to injuries. And given it's been such a long time since the players have been in competitive action, injuries were always going to play a big part in these final few weeks of this season. Unfortunately for Arsenal, they've hit them already. And the players who are going to come in are going to have to need to do a job, and they're going to have to do a job quickly, because Arsenal can't afford to drop many more points if they want to get themselves back in European contention. Couple more little bits to just go over if you haven't seen them already. Mikel Arteta, we spoke to him last night in his press conference, another virtual press conference. He was in much better mood, not surprisingly, from when he spoke to the media after the game against Manchester City. He'd obviously calmed down a little bit. He was more open. He was more talkative about subjects such as David Luiz, such as Mesut Ozil. Again, through his belief, gave his full backing to David Luiz, said he still believes in him, but admitted that the financial uncertainty around the club may mean that he might not play for Arsenal again. He's obviously got a 2-match ban now if a deal isn't agreed for a short-term extension for Luiz's contract, which expires on June the 30th, but that short-term agreement has to be agreed by June the 23rd, which is next Tuesday. If that has not been agreed by then he won't be able to play for Arsenal again this season. Arteta wants him to stay, Luiz wants him to stay, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a club decision. Can they afford, or do they think it's worthwhile in giving Luiz even a short-term agreement to keep him at the club between now and the end of the season? He also spoke about Mesut Ozil, said he's always given Ozil his backing, he's always believed in Ozil, he said he gets on well with him. The reason he was left out on Wednesday night was that he just didn't feel, he hasn't seen enough from him in training, doesn't think he's at his top level yet. Says there are mitigating circumstances to that. You've got to remember Mesut Ozil's just become a father in the last few weeks from a father of 2 young kids myself. I know how knackering that can be. Whether that's an excuse for Ozil not to be shoving enough in training to warrant a spot in the matchday squad at Manchester City is another thing. But Arteta says once he sees that Ozil's ready to prove to him and willing to put the work in to be at the top level, then he will be back in contention. So, olive branch there for Mesut Ozil, basically putting the ball firmly in his court. If Ozil shows that he's up for it and he's doing enough in training, then he'll be back in contention and possibly back in the side. And look, Arsenal need Mesut Ozil back playing, because he's still one of the club's best player. Whatever your thoughts on him, whatever your thoughts on what he should do in the summer, or Arsenal should try and do with him in the summer, he's a member of the squad now. And when Mesut Ozil plays well, Arsenal play well. That's still the case. And so it'll be interesting to see whether he's involved for the trip to Brighton on Saturday. That's it for now. Just a short team news update really ahead of Saturday's game at Brighton. I will be at the Amex. It'll be my first match. I didn't go on Wednesday, couldn't get in, but I'm in on Saturday. So it'll be my first match reporting behind closed doors on Arsenal, and I'll try and do a sort of video from that, just sharing my experiences of exactly what it's like as a journalist covering a Premier League game in the coronavirus era and behind closed doors. So thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for your support once again on this channel. And if you haven't liked or haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please do hit the button down there and subscribe. Thanks everyone, stay safe and have a good weekend.